Time once again for the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast with you as always, Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network, Sam McDowell from the Kansas City Star. I'm Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB. We continue our series of over and unders. We go to the offensive side this time out. Patrick Mahomes. Vegas has got it basically at 4,000 yards, over or under 27.5 passing touchdowns. How about Kelce? What will his yardage be? Over under on that. His receiving touchdowns. How many starts? We've added a number of crafty ones ourselves. Josh Simmons. Does he start 12 games for this Kansas City Chiefs? How many 1,000-yard receivers will there be? There weren't any last year or the year before. Isaiah Pacheco. We all figure he's going to lead the team, but by how much? Xavier Worthy. His yards per catch, surprisingly low last year. Total receiving yards by the running backs. That number's been pretty low here of late as well. Patrick Mahomes getting the ball down the field, passes of 20-plus air yards. Will he be going over or under on those numbers? We're breaking it all down right here, right now on the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast.
You are listening to the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Chiefs on planet Earth, breaking down the Chiefs like no one else can. Red, Gold, and Bold is hosted by Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro. Jeff Chadiha is a senior columnist and on-air personality for the NFL Network and NFL.com. Sam McDowell is a columnist for the Kansas City Star. Soren Petro is the afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. The Red, Gold, and Bold podcast is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are the hosts of the Best Chiefs podcast, Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro.
All right, thank you very much, Curtis. We do appreciate it. We begin with our over-unders on the offensive side of the ball. Always like to take a measure of what we took away from this. Jeff, what did you take away from this little exercise here?
It's difficult. We've done it for the defense as well. And it's hard to really, the offense is much tougher because there's so many wild cards. There's so many guys that you just don't know what they're going to be. And I'm always leery about guys coming off injuries or guys getting older, and they've got a healthy combination of both. I think every topic we're going to talk about, there's some larger issue looming with all these players that it's really tough to predict this. You'd like to go off just history, but I think this is a totally different deal with this group.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. How about you, Sam? What was your takeaway from the offensive side?
It's less of a collaborative effort than the defensive side. I mean, a lot of the defensive stuff we go through, okay, if this guy gets hurt, maybe this guy can fill in and help get to this number. With the offense, it's a lot just on you. And so the professionals that might bet some of these numbers and some of these numbers, Mahomes' numbers and Kelce's numbers you can find on the open market. Like when you look at these numbers, if you're taking the over, you're saying this guy's going to be healthy, which obviously you can't guarantee. So that's what makes, to Jeff's point, I think this is a more difficult exercise in the defense for that reason, is you're saying, man, this guy's got to play this number of games to get here.
Yeah, it's a kick in the face to realize just how on the ones that are posted by Vegas, how they're not expecting big things, right? Like it's an eye opener that some new people better get some things done, and that the shine is off. The Patrick Mahomes will just do it all by himself, So I do think that's interesting, and I think we've got some really good ones that are here that we've added to it as well that I think are going to be fun to go through as well. Let's start on those. And get things going here. Let's begin or start with the ones that Vegas has put out, I should say. Patrick Mahomes passing yards. Sam, 4,000.5, right? 0.5. I'm curious as to why they thought the 0.5. Why not 39.99.5? Why is 4,000.5? But that's what they're going with. What do you see here on this one?
You're just purely banking on health, because if Patrick Mahomes is healthy, like last year's the only year he hasn't gotten to it, which was 30. I'm going over, by the way. Last year was 30, 39, 28, and he didn't play the last game of the season. Now he's had a few years where he hasn't had to play the last game of the year, including the last 2 seasons. But I just think he gets there even if he plays 15 games, even if he plays 16 games. Like, there's a couple aspects that we'll get to later for, I guess, rationale behind that. But if he doesn't get to 4,000, it's going to be a long offensive season.
Because it's not going to be a 2,500-yard rushing season for this team. I think we all agree on that. By the way, last year, to Sam's point, 39-28. Before that, 41-83, 52-50, 48-39, 47-40, 40-31, and 50-97. Just rounding off. 3,900, 4,200, 5,300, 4,800, 4,700, 4,000, and 5,100. So he has been over every year on this number, with the exception of 24. He will turn 30 early in this year. So the age part, the older players tend to get hurt more. So that does, become a factor in this. Jeff, where do you sit on Mahomes over 4,000?
Over as well. And that 2019 season, what he was hurt for a couple games, or I think two, and he missed the game he got hurt in. He was hurt in the first quarter of the first half. So I think he even played, almost like 3.5 games there. So I'm going over. I think that he'll probably land around 4,200. That'd be his average year moving forward, just because the NFL has changed so much and how they defend this team. And as Sam said, this team is set up for him to throw the football, because they obviously didn't invest in the running game in a way that makes you think they're going to be relying on Isaiah Pacheco or Kareem Hunt to be huge difference makers. So I do think this does come down to health. 2 years ago, it was drops and inconsistency. Last year was health. So if he has a good core around him, he should be able to get there. Yeah.
It's a stone cold over. I mean, I don't know how you could bet this under. I mean, if you are, then you are just playing the injury game. I don't know there's a 3-year trend, I guess, of declining production, right? 5,300, 4,200, 3,900. So I guess we're saying, well, they're falling apart. The league is catching up. But there are just so many things that Sam put in. I think this is you bet the under no matter what, right? Like you bet the over no matter what. So I will bet the over on this one and play it, because I think, like you said, he might miss 2 or 3 games and still get there. How about passing touchdowns? Does this get a little bit trickier? 27.5, the history going backwards. Last year, 26, 27, 41, 37, 38, 26, and 50. He has been under in his 7 years as a starter. He's been under this number 3 times, over it 4 times. Where do you sit, Sam?
I'm going to go over, just because he's never had fewer than 26. So I also think this is a lot just of a health bet. But I think he's got better weapons than he did a year ago. And you asked for our thoughts off the top. There is a little bit of a discomfort in sometimes doing this exercise, because you realize sometimes you contradict yourself from one pick to the other a little bit. And so here's my first opportunity to do that. The one spot that makes this difficult is they ran the ball more on goal-to-go situations than they ever had in Patrick Mahomes' career last year. So I'm taking the over despite that, but that is what made me a little bit hesitant on this one, is they got to where, specifically with Kareem Hunt, they decided we don't have to pass the ball to score inside the 5, because we believe that this guy can just power through and get 1 or 2 yards at any time we hand him the football. That makes it a little bit trickier than I think people realize.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. I'm stone cold over. Like, I do think at some point they are going to unleash the fury. Let me say that for the first time in 2025.
First but not last. Yeah.
No, it will not be the last. But it hurts now to say it. I will say that I'm not as optimistic about it as I was in the old days, but I think this offense has to get on track. I've said many times, I think this is a big year for Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. And I think this team to reestablish themselves as an offensive power, and that teams aren't catching up. I mean, I think there's a lot of confidence. Teams aren't afraid of playing this offense anymore. And I think there's got to be a concentrated effort to get that back, to get that kind of wow factor back. And I would bet on Andy Reid. I would bet on Patrick Mahomes to get that done. And I think defensively they're going to be good. Get them the ball back. So I'm definitely on the over. I'm sorry, Jeff. I skipped you. I
No.
apologize. Where are you on this one?
I'm under. And not much under. I'd put him at 27, 26 for the. Sam makes a good point. It was a point I was going to make. The Kareem Hunt factor is real, and I feel like they probably will lean into that more because why else is he here? He's not here to get 70-yard touchdown runs. So I think they want him to be an option in that area of the field or the goal line. And and to keep it real, I mean, he's gotten a lot of cheap touchdown passes in that area over the course of his career where he's just flipping the ball to Kelce or, a little pocket pass to Tyreek Hill coming around on a jet sweep. I think those days are over. And when you think about the options at receiver down in that area of the field in the red zone, Kelce's older player, I think, what did he have, 5 touchdowns last year? 6? He wasn't a double-digit guy.
3.
Yeah, 3. So, okay. So I'm giving him more credit. And so I don't see Xavier Worthy or Hollywood Brown having the size to be difference makers in that area. And Rashee Rice, again, is probably your only option. So, yeah, unless he's getting a ton of big play touchdown passes, I think it's going to be under.
Yeah, okay. All right, so we've got everybody's over on everything on Patrick Mahomes except for Jeff is under on the touchdowns for Patrick Mahomes. So we'll see if he is right on that one. All right, let's go to Travis Kelce. 675.5 yards receiving. That is the total. He's been over that every year with Patrick Mahomes. 823, 984, 1,300, 1,100, 1,400, 1,200, 1,300. They are counting on a decline in this one, Sam. What do you say?
I've got over, but look, I understand why they're counting on a decline. I mean, I've pointed out many times that you don't have bounce back seasons at this age. But when I went through it, his year last year, which was obviously statistically a career worst year in terms of yardage, the worst 5+ game stretch I could find was to open the year. 6 games to open the year, he averaged 39 yards per game last year. It was his worst stretch of the year. This number he was at 41 yards per game during those 6. This number only asked him to get to 39 yards per game. So even if he has his worst stretch of last year elongated over the entire year, he still gets to 675. And, for all that Travis Kelce aging we've seen, the one thing he still does is play. He plays through injury. He was hurt, I think, last year. He was really banged up in 23. Remember that Vikings game where some people were suspecting, wow, is this going to be a long-term injury for him? He played. He came back in that game and played. The one thing he'll do is tough it out and play. And so I think if you believe that, then you should take the over here.
Okay. Jeff? I'm
going under. I think him more as a 600-yard receiver. Again, not much under, but I do feel like, and Sam's in previous episodes has talked about the best tight end seasons for guys at certain ages. And usually you look at the greatest ones, you start seeing more definitive drop-off. So he was 100 yards less than he was a year earlier. I think it's probably going to be 200 to 300 this time around. And that's not, again, a knock on Travis Kelce. It's just age catches up to you. And even when you are getting on the field with injuries, it affects you more. You're not going to be as productive. And I think about how he ended the season and how he started the season. And I could see not that many games in between those kind of moments where he's putting up big numbers. I think a big game for him in this season would probably be 50, 60 yards. And
I think you'll probably have a game in there where it's a little bit better. I'm going over, but I'm not bold about it. I think Sam's durability point is the biggest reason I'm going over. I could see this one going under. I mean, it is trending down, right? 1,300 to 984 to 823. And the injury factor becomes a bigger thing here. I'm sure that's what's driving this number being that low. But even if he doesn't, it's only 150 yards less production. That's 10 yards a game less. And you get there. So I'm going over, but this was one of the harder ones for me to pick.
I agree. One thing I should have added, this, although it fuels Jeff's point more more than yours and mine, Soren, is how many players in NFL history, tight ends, have at age 30, this will be his age 36 season, have hit this number at age 36?
Ooh, Tony Gonzalez, maybe. That's it. Tony Gonzalez, Antonio Gates, maybe.
Just Tony G. He did it twice. He did it at age 36 and age 37. But he's the only player that's got 675 as a tight end in his age 36 season or older. There's only 4 guys who ever got to 401 at this age or older. I mean, this is not a productive age season for tight ends in NFL history. You've mentioned it, Soren. I mean, when you're the best of your position, you should be better than these guys and eclipse them. But I've said it many times. Tony G's strength was he had a big catch radius, and that's what helped him put up big numbers. Kelce's always been, the wiggle before the catch and the yards after the catch, and that's what we've seen decline.
Yeah. All right, how about touchdowns? 5.5 is the number on touchdowns. Going backwards, starting with last year, 3, 5, 12, 9, 11, 5, and 10 with Patrick Mahomes. So it means he's been over this number 4 times. He's been under it 3 times. But he's been under it each of the last 2 years, Sam. Where are you on Kelce for over-under 5.5 touchdown catches?
I'm under. Jeff hasn't picked, but I'll just say I agree with Jeff on this one.
That's right. That's right. I gave him 5 last year.
This is what I said. There's some contradictory information because I still went over on Patrick Mahomes, but a 5% dip last year in goal-to-go runs, and that was already a 5% drop on the year before. I think I felt like, I guess, splitting the Travis Kelce ones, and he's more likely to go under here, I think, than he is on the yards.
Okay. Jeff, do you indeed go under, or are you going to shock the world and go over?
Yeah, I'm going under. I think we'll all probably be under unless you've got some gut reaction going that we don't know about. But yeah,
you never know.
But it's really like it goes back to style of play, and he's just not a guy who's at the age he's at, the way he plays football, he's going to get pushed around a lot more and not going to be able to separate in that part of the field to where he's going to make his money in the red zone near the goal line, catching touchdown passes at this age, and he's just not a big enough guy to do that. It's different if you've got like a Rob Gronkowski type person who can just go down there and push people out of the way. He's just not built for that, and it's I think that's what's showing up in his declining numbers in that stat.
We say that, but didn't Gronk retire at like 29 the first time, and then came back and played at like 31 and 2? Like we don't know what the hell he'd be.
We don't.
He took 2 years off.
What's so. Sorry, hear your pick, and then I'll give you guys the same exercise I did on the yards.
Okay, I'm stone cold under. I mean, he's never been the biggest touchdown guy. That's like maybe been the one thing that I think people can dig at him is I think those 3 years that I mentioned are the only 3 he's in double digits for touchdowns, and so I to me this is name recognition is keeping the number as high as it is. I think it's a stone cold under, and I'm Captain Positive. And I've got plenty of gut to have a gut reaction on this, and there's no way my gut reaction is that he's going to go over. I wouldn't be shocked if he had like 1.
Yeah.
So the same exercise, number of tight ends who have hit this at age 36 or older.
Gonzalez, that's it.
So Gates did it 1 year as well.
Oh, did he? Okay.
He had 7. Tony G did it twice with 8. But by far the funniest stat on this is there's Jimmy Graham's age 37 season. 6 catches, 4 of them were touchdowns. and
Green
but that's
Bay?
also, I think it was with New Orleans. He was back with New Orleans, at that time. But that's what I'm saying. Like Tony G got touchdowns that way too, to where you could throw to him if he was covered, because if you're a 37-year-old tight end, you're going to be covered, but he could catch it. And we didn't see the Chiefs use Travis Kelce like that in his prime.
Yeah. Like that's a fair point. Listen, when Sam led with under, and I was going under, there was no shot that Jeff was going to be anywhere but under, right? I already had that one written in. So, I knew what was coming, if you will, on that one. Listen, you'll know what's coming when it comes to your parking lot with our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's best at parking lots. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews. Every project comes with a written warning. Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Your favorites are back. Kansas City now for a limited time at all your KC Whataburger locations. Get the Pico de Gallo burger, 2 large beef patties, 2 slices of pepper jack cheese, Pico de Gallo, and creamy cilantro lime. How about the sweet and spicy bacon burger, 2 large beef patties, American and Monterey Jack cheese, bacon, grilled onions, and topped with sweet and spicy pepper sauce. Or grab the patty melt. Even the honey barbecue chicken strip sandwich. They're all perfect with the Whataburger banana pudding shake. Remember, Whataburger's open 24 hours a day. Breakfast served 11 p. to 11 a. And don't forget, you can get all your Whataburger favorites and more by downloading the Whataburger app with the QR code. Whataburger, proud sponsor of the Red, Gold, and Bold. All right, let's keep things rolling with Josh Simmons. 12 starts, Sam. We know injuries are already a factor in him coming into this. 12 starts for him.
I'm going over, but even as that's coming out, it doesn't feel like that's actually the right pick here, because you have to bank on 2 things. You got to bank he's going to open the year as a starter and that he's going to stay healthy. I'm banking on the first one, that I think he's going to be the week 1 starter, which is why I'm going over. But that's only half the battle with him, because it's not just about his health in training camp. That is why this specific injury carries the risk, is because it carries long-term risk that something else gets injured. We've seen that happen with players that have this exact injury. And so, like I said, as it's coming out, I don't feel real confident with it, but I'm going to take the over with it.
Okay. Jeff?
I'm going over here too, and like Sam, there's a discomfort with it. I just think that they're trying to put a square peg in a round hole, and they're committing themselves to this in their own way. I think they want to believe certain things are true about Josh Simmons' health, and so that means, to me, if you say he's starting and then he's only playing 10 games, that's a worst case scenario than just saying, he's going over. And so I think however he's playing, they're going to ride it out and they're going to see what he can do. I'm not going to wish injury on him, so I won't put that out there. But I do think that I think the more conservative approach would be to go with Jalen Moore and let him get acclimated. But I think they're going to ride it out with him.
Yeah, interesting. I'm on the over as well, but holding my nose as I do it. I mean, this is a dart throw. I think you summed it up perfectly, Jeff. If he starts and then doesn't get to this, and injury's not it, boy, this is Kingsley Suamati all over again. I think the pedigree's higher. They are so bullish on his health. I mean, so bullish. I mean, from the night they drafted him, Andy Reid saying he's ready to go. And it'll be the last time I ever pay any kind of attention to anything Andy Reid says if he's not ready. Yeah. Right? Because he has just beat that drum, and it is so uncharacteristic of him when it comes to injuries that I'm going with the idea that, and I've talked with other people, and they're positive they're not as over the top as he is, but I'm going to say that the coach knows something. I'll go over as well for him. So I don't know, but that one's really scary. All right, number of 1,000-yard receivers. We've put the number at 0.5, right? 0.5. Why? Because last year, 0, 23, 0, 22, 1, Travis Kelce, who the number is now at 600 and something on. 21, 2, 22. Both of those years was Kelce and Tyreek Hill. 2019, 2. He was also Kelce and Hill. It's been Kelce and Hill for all those. So one of the guys ain't here, and one of them is expected to be way lower of the guys that have actually performed that. Sam, where do you go on this one?
I'm going to go over. I'm going to say they have the first 1,000-yard receiver since Tyreek Hill left town, which I predicted last year, and it was wrong. So, if it's not Rashee Rice, I think that, it could be, I guess, Xavier Worthy. If Rashee Rice, if there was a 6-game suspension or an 8-game suspension, I think I'd go under. I still am not positive that the Rashee Rice issue will be settled by the onset of this year. And look, maybe it will be, but if he plays, you have to pick him to go over. And I think there's enough insurance with Xavier Worthy, I guess, to give you a second possibility.
Yeah. Okay. Jeff?
I'm going under here. And it
Really?
It is the mystery of Rashee Rice's legal situation and his health, to be honest with you. Again, a guy coming off any kind of major knee injury, the next year you don't. It always sounds good in the spring and the summer when they're not doing anything or getting hit or getting pushed around, and then it's a different case when they actually have to pull away from somebody or make a hard cut and do these things that you have to do to survive in real NFL games. So I'm not sold on that. I think he'll be a 900-yard receiver. I think they'll probably spread the football around. I'm not sold on Xavier Worthy as a 1,000-yard receiver yet. I can see a situation where it's, 900 to Rashee Rice, 900 to 800 to Worthy. Maybe Brown gives you 500, 600. Kelce get you 600, and then a few other guys bang in there. Kind of like what they were in 2023, right? No, excuse me,
22.
22. They didn't have a 1,000-yard receiver outside of Kelce, but they had a number of guys who contributed. I think it's going to look more like that. Again, maybe I'm a little more pessimistic about Rashee Rice and how this year's going to play out for him.
I think that's an interesting point because that year in 22, Patrick Mahomes threw for 5,200 yards, right? That was his MVP season. And their receiving yardage that year, hang on, how it was sprayed around, 1,300 to Kelce. Juju did get over 900. Valdez-Scantling, almost 700. 500 for McKinnon, Justin Watson, 300 for Noah Gray, 300 for Cole Hardman. Sky Moore had 250. So, this it's not the slam dunk. I think it's easy to say over on this, but it's a little more complicated than people may realize, but I will say over. And I think it's a virtual lock. I think it's almost an anomaly that they haven't had it. Everybody has a freaking 1,000-yard receiver in the NFL. I mean, it is a problem if this team didn't have it.
The Rams didn't last year. The Rams didn't have one last year.
Virtual lock is strong.
Puka Nacua got hurt. That's the only reason they didn't last
That's what
year.
I'm saying. Yeah.
And injuries are a part of the game. But that, I guess it was with Rashee Rice last year, right? Or he was barreling to blow that.
Yeah.
And suspension looms over it, which is what makes it harder. But I really think this offense, if it's going to get to where they need to be, should have two wide receivers over 1,000 yards every year. We should not, because they don't have a Devontae Adams or a Jamar Chase.
Two wide receivers?
Yes. That's where this offense needs to go to. Travis Kelce was really a wide receiver more than he was a tight end and how they used him. And moving forward, now that he's on the downslope, this organization has got to be able to identify, find, coach up, and put on the field two guys that are going to catch 1,000 yards. There's no excuse for it. It's not as hard as they've made it look. And I know Andy Reid wants to spread the ball around. And by the way, that's part of his problem too. Don't. Find guys that are good and stop having packages of plays for Damian Williams, or Noah Gray, and throw the ball to the moneymakers.
It's a good question.
I don't think in any of their Super Bowl years they've had two guys. I think all three of their Super Bowl years they've only had one.
I know, and I think it.
You're talking about wide receivers?
No, just receivers. Period. I think they've only. I don't think
they had Kelce and Hill.
No, they've never had two wideouts.
Well, I don't think they've even had. I don't think they've even had two guys get to 1,000 yards. Yeah. In 19, that was the year that Tyreek was hurt. Remember?
Tyreek got there.
No. In 19, he only had 860.
Well, I've got him down for 2 in 19. Did I mess that up?
Yeah. Because in 19, Tyreek Hill was. 19, he only has 860.
See here, hold on.
Because that was the year he got hurt in Jacksonville. And then in 22, they just have Kelce again. And so, look, that's not that's correlation, not causation in that situation. But in fact, they had 1 when they won in 19, 1 when they won in 22, and 0 when they won in 23. Again, the more guys you have, the better your offense is going to be. It's just that they have gotten by with this formula.
Yeah, no, they have. But I will stand by they need to get to the point that they regularly have a couple of guys at wide receivers catching 1,000 yards. How about Pacheco? His margin for leading the team in rushing. We've got the number set at 300, that he will lead the team in rushing by at least 300 yards. He lost it by 318 last year, led by over 500 yards, 546 and 23, and led by 472 yards in 22. Sam, where do you sit on this one?
I'm going to go under. I don't think his running style is conducive to being a bell cow running back, and particularly not for 17 games, which, by the way, is why I would have liked to have seen the Chiefs be more aggressive at the running back position in the offseason. Particularly, I think they kicked the can down the road to the draft knowing it was a deep draft, and then they got to a spot in the 5th round where they liked a linebacker who they didn't think should be there. And now all of a sudden – running back is a consequence of that, where I don't know that Brashad Smith is going to be ready to carry the ball a lot as a rookie. But I do think, based on what we saw last year and in the playoffs too, that they'll use Kareem Hunt if he's on the roster. They'll try and use Elijah Mitchell as much as they can, in which case I do think that Andy Reid's going to consider more, is this a lead back situation or should I play all the guys?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Jeff?
Yeah, I'm with Sam on this one. I don't see. I think Isaiah Pacheco hit his ceiling last year, even before he got hurt. I think they know what he is. They know how they have to build a running game around his limitations, and I think they like the idea of Kareem Hunt being more involved. Now they got a full offseason to see what he can do, and Andy loves to be creative with guys he knows really well. Elijah Mitchell is the wild card in this. If he can stay healthy, I think he's going to steal a lot of carries too. So I think it's going to look more like Pacheco at like 600-700 yards, Kareem at 500, Elijah Mitchell at 300. I think it's going to be a much tighter split between the three of them.
I think it's easy to say, okay, they go back to Pacheco. In fact, I've already read a fantasy thing that had Pacheco. Again, he's getting hype as like a top 10 running back, and they're seeing him going. Yeah, I don't get it, because I think you haven't watched him play. There's more motion than progress in his running style. There's a lot of movement. He's not really getting up the field, and he takes hits. And for 2 years, he stayed healthy, but he does not have a style that you absorb that kind of punishment at his size. And, I think this is one where it'll be like, well, I'm probably wrong on this. And then boom, down he goes. I also think the temptation of Kareem Hunt being there, and if he's fresher, I think Andy Reid will scratch that itch more than probably is the design going into the season. And you mentioned Elijah Mitchell. I think all those things, I go under on the 300. I think it's the only place you can land on this one, to be honest with you. I'd be surprised if we didn't, say, okay, that one ended up being one of the easier ones. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We've still got more to get to, talking about Xavier Worthy, the running backs catching the ball, Patrick Mahomes going downfield. We'll hear about it here after you hear from our friends at Suede.
Big moves, bigger vibes. If you haven't heard, Besame Wellness is now Suede Cannabis. Our colors and name may have changed, but you'll still experience the same great service on top of better deals, longer hours, and faster delivery. Smithville, Liberty, Kansas City, Warrensburg, and North Kansas City. No matter which location you visit, you'll feel right at home. Find the location nearest you and shop online at SuadeCannabis.com. Life should be dope. Let's make it happen. Suede Cannabis.
Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait, get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222, or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. All right, moving right along here. Xavier Worthy, yards per catch, all the speed, fastest guy ever at the combine. He only averaged 10.8 yards per catch last year. We've got the number at 12. Sam, where do you go on his yards per catch? Over or under 12 yards per catch?
It's a really low number, and I'm still taking the under on it. I think last year the Chiefs figured out that late in the season, his best role was to give him the ball early and give him yards after the catch. 53 of his 59 catches last year within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage or behind it. 53 out of 59. Forget downfield. Like, he wasn't even a factor in the intermediate game. 3 catches intermediate, 3 catches downfield. I do think he'll connect on more than 3 downfield passes. He connected on 4 in the playoffs alone last year. But I just think they found something with him in that role. And, you know, with Rashee Rice coming back, he's not going to be there quite as frequently, but I don't see him jumping at 1.2 yards next year.
Okay. Jeff?
Yeah, I'm with Sam on that one. I'm going under as well, just because of the usage that, you know, it's interesting. I think at his best, the best case scenario for him is that he becomes what Jameson Williams became in Detroit, which is a guy who took a couple of years to figure it out and then became a really pretty good game-breaking type player, catching crossing routes and running by people. And so I do think there'll be a lot more underneath stuff for him, intermediate routes. He's not a great deep ball route runner. I think he proved that last year. He had a couple plays in the Super Bowl, but a lot of plays toward the sidelines. He was not making it happen, stepping out of bounds. And so I think a lot of his damage is going to come from catching short stuff and hoping he can break free.
Well, you guys you've lost your mind. I'm a solid over on this one. I'll point this out to you. How far was the pass where he was stepped out of bounds? Ballpark me. You know, where he didn't get his feet.
Which one? Yeah.
Okay.
Like 30, like 35 maybe.
Yeah, 35. I mean,
Tampa.
I thought that one was probably a little bit longer, but my point is my point is this: he had 59 catches, right? If he has one 50-yard catch, that takes him up 9/10, right? Like if you just catch those 2 balls, and I think that is a product of not being in sync with the quarterback. I think everything Sam said is right, but I'm wondering, and I think this is probably the case, they started playing him that way because if you're going to take the top off the defense, you first got to do something underneath, whether that's pounding away with a running game.
100%,
they didn't have that.
Yeah.
Or doing the stuff underneath. I think hopefully I think the design of the offense will be that Hollywood Brown and Rashee Rice are doing the underneath stuff, and Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown as well will beat him over the top. I think it just takes a couple of big plays to bring this number up. And so I don't think he's going to 18 or 19 yards, but I just think just the natural progression of him and the other weapons will get this number up. I'll take the over on the 12. And I like that one pretty good. Total receiving yards by all running backs at 650. Where do you sit on this one, Sam? By the way, over the years, last year, 603, 657, 826, 824, 584, 648. This is one that we came up with. Sam, of course, our unofficial line setter, did a great job on this one. I think 650 is the perfect number to put on this one. Where do you sit, Sam?
I'm going to go under. I don't think they filled this role in the offseason. I'm not even sure who's going to be playing third downs for them. And I think people underestimate the production that Samaje Perine provided them last year. I think I looked this stat up like live on a podcast about a month ago, but among all running backs with at least 30 targets, which there were 37 of them, he led the NFL in yards per catch by a full yard, 11 and a half yards per catch last year. Next best on that list was 10 and a half. I don't think they have that guy this year. I think they'd love for Brashard Smith to be that guy, but a 7th-round rookie is available in the 7th round for a reason. Now, part of that reason, yes, is that it's a deep running back class, but part of it is because people wonder about his preparedness for the NFL in year one. And I think he'll be a special teams guy, absolutely, but I don't know that he's going to be a huge factor in the receiving game yet. And I'm not going to predict it right off the bat, which is why I'm going under.
And Jeff, I've got you down for under as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Sam said people underestimated the Samaje Perine. The Chiefs underestimated Samaje Perine because they didn't want to use him. And those numbers in 21 and 2022 that was largely because of Jerick McKinnon's presence. And without a Jerick McKinnon type player in this offense, I don't see where you're going to get that. I agree with Sam. If you're throwing the ball to Kareem Hunt, who's their best, probably if he's healthy, probably your most consistent receiving threat, he ain't going nowhere with it. And so Rashard Smith, I agree. Rashard Smith is an interesting idea, but the only person who I've heard tout him is Louis Riddick. So I don't know.
And Dave Tobe, right? It's
Tobe,
always as a special teamer, right? I don't hear much talk at all of him as a running back, but other than the Alvin Kamara comparison you're talking about that Louis Riddick made, but I don't hear that comparison. I'm starting to think that Louis Riddick is just bucking for a job with the Chiefs.
That's right.
Because I don't hear the Chiefs talk about Rashard.
Right. Hey, Casey Wolf is open, right?
I mean,
come on.
I'm just saying.
Casey Wolf, aka what was it? ESPN put up. They put up, what was it? Chiefsaholic.
Yeah.
ESPN told the story of Dan Meeks retiring.
Dan Meeks.
And they put up there that
no, they didn't.
The photo was of Chiefsaholic.
No way.
100%. And it was up there. We talked about it on the radio at the time, and Curtis noted, like, he goes, it's not just that they put it up there, it's that it's 5 hours later and it's still up.
They did. We should have done the whole freaking podcast on that.
but anyway, everything Sam said, I'm with. I just, they don't have that person to be that player, and they don't want to play that way. Be honest with you, they want to be more involving the receivers and Kelce to a certain degree.
They've been close to this number, 648, and over it in 4 of the 7 years. Right? They've been 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, and it wasn't just Jerick McKinnon. Like Darrell Williams had almost 500 yards one year receiving.
And I don't know why I didn't do 2018.
And Clyde too.
I didn't do 2018.
Clyde had 300 one year, yeah.
Yeah, so I am going to take it over. I don't love it, but I just think overall the offense, I think if they're hitting more downfield, then there's going to be plenty of checkdowns to the running back house. I think Patrick Mahomes will probably use the running backs more. I think Kareem Hunt is a good receiver. I agree with Jeff. He ain't getting much more than what you throw it to him and he catches. So, but I think they'll get there. I don't think they get there with an 850. I think they get there with like 677. Something along those lines. I'll take the over. I think they've got to get better at that part of the game, and I expect them to work on it. All right, our final one: Patrick Mahomes downfield passes, 20+ air yards. Right, the number we're using is 18.5. You go ahead and you want to define it. This isn't just 20-yard completions.
Yeah,
while traveling in the air that far.
Yeah, 20 yards down the field, past the line of scrimmage. A completion where the receiver is targeted 20 yards down the field.
Yeah. Where you go?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that I thought you made a great point on Xavier Worthy, and if we could go back and change those, I would go over on him because I didn't do the math fully enough to say 2 more of these catches and he gets to 12 a year ago. So, I'm predicting that now. I predict the over here because I think they'll go over on this one. Now, it is a big jump. I mean, this is a 50% raise from 12 a year ago. And maybe I'm buying something I shouldn't be buying again this year, but I'm not saying they're going to get to 44 like he did in 2018 or in the 30s like he's had 2 seasons of that. But I think that they're not going to be able to go to Travis Kelce as often. They're going to have to lean on their receivers more, and therefore I think they'll get there.
Okay. Over there for Sam. Jeff, where do you sit?
I'll go over as well, just because the way the numbers play out last year, again, the injuries were a huge factor. In 2023, he had 18 and a ton of drops in that mix, and they want to throw the football down the field. And so I think that there's going to be a concerted effort to make that happen. And yeah, I think they'll get there. It may not be a dominant number, but I think 18 is a pretty conservative number given what they're capable of with him at quarterback.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, if Sam is positive and Jeff is positive on the results of something, I am contractually obligated to be positive as well. Is that not the case? Right. I believe I have to go over. So I will go over. I just think being bullish on this team statistically this year is a good bet. And so I give them a pretty good shot to make it happen. I think that Patrick Mahomes and the offense and Andy Reid has to go to work this offseason. They have to have things figured out. I think they should be healthier once they get by whatever suspension that now some people are saying may not come this year. If there's no suspension for Rashee Rice, I think everything gets a lot easier for them to handle. So I'm bullish on Mahomes having a bounce back year. I think he could. We get to bold and daring predictions. I won't be surprised if I have him throwing for 5,000 yards again.
Yeah. I think your head might explode if this offense looks anything like it did the last couple of years. The way you've talked on this podcast.
It will. It will. I'm betting on Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, figuring out what needed to be figured out. And I do think, listen, if we look back, the left tackle problem, they knew they had a problem. They drafted a guy, it didn't work. Okay. And that's a huge problem. And many of these things may just come back to, does Josh Simmons get that over on the 12 starts? If he does, then maybe all these things start being easy overs because the offense hums along. We go, wow, that left tackle means so much, right? I think that's one place where it could be. But then literally everything that could go wrong did go wrong. We've chronicled it. Here's our offensive design. We spent the all off season. Boom, first preseason game. Out goes Hollywood Brown. Boom, third game. Out goes Rashee Rice, who was the engine of the offense. And then, by the way, along the way, while trying to put it all back together, they won 15 games, and they made plays when they had to make plays in close games. And statistically, they sucked. They were mediocre. They were average, by the way. They didn't suck, but for them, that's sucking. And yet they still found a way. I mean, I do think that there is a lot of ceiling for this offense.
But every year is different. And ask the Buffalo Bills how much you.
Hang on, Jeff. Wait, don't go past that because I think that's a great point. That is also part of the reason why I'm positive on a lot of these because every year is different. I do believe the pendulum's this way one year and it's that way. Like when you see something way out here, you probably should be looking for it to be over here. And it was way out here on the bad side. I think it should be swinging over to the good side. Don't you think every year is different? Kind of lends itself towards the Chiefs offense being better?
Well, the point I make is that the baseline for this team is not what it was in 2021. It's different cast of characters by and large. And so we haven't really fully established what this current group of players, what their capability really is. I think we've baked in a lot of stuff that's happened over the course of the entire Patrick Mahomes career, but it's not Tyreek Hill out there running around. It's not Travis Kelce in his prime. And it's not Kareem Hunt back when he was doing his thing. They got names, but how much of these guys really done that we're talking about here on offense? Like how much? The center and the guard are the only guys you really can trust right now, and the quarterback.
I think it's a fine point. I think that's fair, and it's up to them to get it all figured out. That's the key. Yeah. All right, listen, we always appreciate you checking out the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast. You can support it by supporting our great sponsors like Gann Asphalt and Concrete, One Contractor, all things parking lot. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com. Northland Injury Law, if you've been hurt in an accident, text HURT to 22222 or call 816-400-HURT. Whataburger open 24 hours a day. They serve breakfast 11 p to 11 a. Check out my favorite, the Patty Melt. It's back for a limited time. And our friends at Suede Cannabis. If you haven't heard, Best of Me Wellness is now Suede Cannabis. Find the location nearest you. Shop online at SuedeCannabis.com. For Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network, Sam McDowell from the Kansas City Star, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast.